Hey, honey,
Hey.
how are you? Sorry, I had to switch up the mic to my AirPods. Can you hear me pretty clearly through these now?
Yeah, it's good.
Awesome. You're getting a little gurgle when you said yeah, but I had to restart because sometimes when you change that audio while you're in the meeting, for whatever reason it doesn't take. It's so random. I'm like,
Right.
ah,
Yep.
hang on. I'm gonna change this to there we go. Yeah. Listen, I love my background because it's a Warcraft background,
Yeah.
but I don't know. It sometimes it makes your hair, it like cuts your head off and stuff. So
Yeah,
I
that's
was
fine.
like,
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if I should switch that
Oh, it
to
looks
like a just, standard background, if that would be better for you.
no, it looks fine.
Awesome. Awesome. Awesome.
How are you?
I'm awesome. How are you? Are you in Minnesota right now?
Yeah, I've always lived here. I'm from Minnetonka originally, and now I live in Woodbury.
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah. I worked out on Lake Minnetonka as a teenager,
Okay.
at Excelsior Bay Yacht Club. It used to be Stone Wings on the Lake.
Yep. Right.
Yeah, my mom was a manager there and at Excelsior Bay Yacht Club and Maynard, not Maynard's, but the little Bayside Grill.
Yep.
And so everybody knows my mom.
Wow. Yeah. That's
We
cool.
went to Mexico and ran into people who were like, Kitty! And we're
Wow.
like, what? I
Yeah.
can't believe we just ran into people that know my mom, right?
Yeah. Well,
So
'cause
yeah, yeah.
I was reading that you had a lot of you were big into the like Twin Cities music scene too in the 80s.
I was. I mean, yeah, yeah. When I started, it was absolutely, a thing. My first producer was Dez Dickerson of
Yep.
the Revolution. And one of my dear, dear friends got very successful with Mint Condition. And yeah, so it was a fun time. And that is an exciting time. Yeah.
Did you have any direct encounter with Prince ever in your life?
Uh-huh. Oh yeah. I had a video that was being played at I want to say Chic. There was a nightclub down in Minneapolis. It was a kind of a big deal. Everybody went to, and Prince came in. It's a little guy. And then there was another time that I had seen him, just sort of in passing.
Hmm.
But yeah, no, didn't work at Paisley Park. Um, when I recorded with Dez, I recorded either at his house or at a studio in Minneapolis.
Yep.
So, but it was fun times, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, crazy.
And you had a lot of were you friends with most of the guys that were in Maserati?
Interestingly enough, I dated the drummer, um, for just a brief moment, Dion,
Yep.
and he's just funny, funny, funny guy. I think he became a pastor up there, and he's with a church now. But I remember going to watch those guys rehearse, and it was like, oh my God, going to the a back scene or a backstage kind of thing. But I didn't get, you know, terribly talking to everybody, right? I didn't know.
And then was it also through music that led you to LA at first?
I'd say that again. You broke up a little, so I didn't hear the question.
Oh, was it also music related that brought you to Los Angeles?
Yeah, absolutely. When I started, it was all music that brought me here. I was came out to sing on a record for a band called the Boys Club, and one of the young men who was in the Jets, and Joe Pasquale made a duet, a duo,
Yep.
and so I came out to sing on that. I remember one of my first recording sessions. I got to work with the Waters, and I was so excited because those guys were, and still are really incredible, and the gals did all the big background vocals, and we worked at Art Wood Studio, and it was like, oh my God. So yeah, really fun stuff. That definitely brought me out. And I stayed in that sort of realm for quite a while. I mean, I did a ton of jingle work and, sessions that revolved around music, um, you know, singing on other people's projects, on my own stuff, and continued through this sort of evolution of that. Um, and it sort of landed in voiceover really almost by accident. I have a theatrical background. And so I was always messing with voices and stuff and along the way doing silly, goofy stuff. And someone was like, hey, can you play this thing? And so I did. And then it's almost like one thing led to another thing.
Hmm.
And then eventually it kind of took over. It's funny how your path can be so unexpected, right? You're like the things you think you're going to end up doing, you don't necessarily achieve A, but you have B. And
Right.
I always had like a primary goal, and then I had my what I called my backup plan, because I always felt like I belonged in a studio, like a recording studio was home for me. And regardless, I'd be recording for a living, even if I didn't have hit records, which is a lofty, difficult thing to accomplish.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's sort of a,
No, you're
and
fine.
then it just sort of evolved, right? It just evolved into more and more of the voiceover work. Yeah.
Well, um, is there like a funny story of how you got the sitcom spot that you did as the singing, like whatever show that was, the
The Nun.
singing nun? Yeah.
Yeah, the rhythm and blues. I was very new out here. I was not in the union yet, and I went to an audition, and the audition they gave was Proud Mary.
Oh,
Uh, and and I had done quite a bit of R&B, and when I was singing live, I got asked to do, Aretha and Tina and these kinds of things live. So I kind of dressed the part and went in and did it. And it was really fun because it was a very sort of natural thing to do, to pretend like you were, and then, this little nebbishy person. And then you could bust out and throw down some soulful, thing. So yeah, really fun. I got Taft Hartley into SAG, and it was all so exciting at the time, being on the set and getting to, just be there and be part of the experience at that early sort of window.
mhm. Was that around the same time too that you were doing whatever live show that was? I saw that video of you singing Last Dance.
Oh, that was I did a series of shows in Vegas and Atlantic City, and then
Okay.
we did a cruise too. And Last Dance was the show that Anita Mann Productions did, and Anita was big on she had a dance show, Solid Gold or something, that was um really popular,
Mhm.
and or had been at some point early on. Um, and as she was transitioning, she started doing these production shows. And so yeah, I did this production show for her, and we were in Vegas for 6 months. We lived there, and we had billing on the marquee, because myself and Paul May, who played my counterpart in that show, uh, had the up, and we were like, oh my god, we got our names on the marquee. So fun, and just great people, super talented people, great dancers.
Mhm.
There's always drama when you're living in a house with the people you perform with, some of which I would not be exactly proud of, but you make some crazy choices. But those guys, amazing group, great people. Anita always was a consummate professional, and yeah, really just fun stuff. Atlantic City, we did Caesars in Atlantic City as well. And then we went on this cruise just as a fill-in, because they had something happened to a cast.
Oh.
And so we just got plugged in, right? But it gave me this opportunity to travel that was really incredible. Italy, Istanbul, just it was lovely.
Mhm.
Portugal. Hmm.
Well, and
Yeah, really fun stuff.
speaking about your own music, I'm sure you've gotten this a lot, but it does sound like, are you inspired a lot by like Sheryl Crow and Melissa Etheridge and people like that?
You would be fun. It's surprising to know that my main I think those guys are awesome. But my main influences coming up as a young girl, I was really into Hart
Yep.
and Wilson. Um, my mom had a really wide collection of a lot of different kinds of music, from America to the Jackson Five, and you know, uh, just R&B and Americana. It was just really a nice. My mom was a very musical person, really a music appreciator, And so she brought us up with this sort of rich music all around us. And I think that played a part. My Aunt Carol played guitar at her church, and we would always sing all the old Carpenters songs when we were just little girls, me, my sister, and Carol. And so, and Carly Simon songs and things like that when we were much younger. But as I grew up to be a teenager, you go through phases where you're really into rock and Aerosmith and Skynyrd and one of my favorite songs of all time is "Can't You See?" What that woman she been doing to me? That I just love that song for whatever reason. But I did not have a lot of country influences, and I really loved when "A Star Is Born" came out with Barbra Streisand in it. I learned every song on that record. Are you watching me now? That stuff I would copy, and my sister's friends would come over and like listen to me do, "Woman in the Moon." Val Fretland. Hey Val, have you seen this? And then it shifted from there. It shifted into Heart and rock folks, and the whole time I had these sort of R&B influences kind of pumping in the back, but not a lot of traditional country. So when I did finally do my records, some of those songs, the first song I ever really wrote that I felt like was complete was "Daddy," and it was inspired by the manager at the restaurant I worked at the time, Lautrec, because he came in with this vest on, this blue shiny vest that reminded me of a picture I had of my dad, who's a really talented musician, playing when he was young.
Oh.
And that song just popped into my head, and I went home and wrote it down. And I felt like that was one of the first sort of complete better songs I had written.
Mm.
But over the years, I had a tendency to write this stuff that leaned sort of Southern rock.
Yep.
And even edge into some bluegrass or country influences that puzzled me. To be perfectly honest, I was like, why do I, I wrote some other R&B stuff, but I didn't end up using it when I did my own records. In the end, songs like "The Road," "Devil," those were things that were sort of the heart of who I felt I might be as an artist.
Yeah.
But I think coming along from my 20s to that point was almost like a search for who are you really? Because, you get producers who see that you can do a thing, and then suddenly you are that thing, right? Because if you're able to throw down, you get pushed into a direction that you yourself love, but it might not be the essence of you as a writer or you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that some of my not getting sort of super famous as a musical artist might be based in that disconnect, right? Because I would be asked, well, if you were doing this, what would you do? And I'd pick something Celine Dion-y in her early years-ish, and they'd be like, well, this is super R&B, what we were doing with my producers at the time. It was like snap. And I'd left that puzzling sort of, what does her talent allow, and where does she best fit in? And I'll never forget going to meetings at BMG and listening as though I wasn't even in the room at how they were going to make me look ethnic.
Oh my God.
And I was like, yeah, that might not happen. So, it's probably not gonna happen.
Yeah.
But it's just a really interesting road. And one of the guys who was helping us get signed at BMG at the time, I want to say, ended up leaving there. And I ran into him at an audition for like Star Search or something years later. And he's like, what are you doing here? I'm like, what are you doing here? And, projects just, they don't, you get a development deal, and then sometimes they just don't, they land somewhere in the ether. Yeah. So long answer.
Oh, you're fine.
To a simple question.
Was your first character part in voiceover? Did that also come from you doing something related to music first, like how you got the job? Or
yeah, oh, most definitely. I started in theater. I didn't go to sort of like regular school for a number of years. From junior high to high school, I went to the Children's Theater Company in school, and and then I studied voice at McPhail Center for the Arts for 3.5 years with the incredible Oksana Bryn, who saved my voice with her amazing operatic breath control methods. She's, man, without her, I wouldn't still have my high end today. She was amazing. But having, pushed more towards the musical side of things, I was at gosh, I don't even know if I remember if this was the first one, but I was at a recording session, I think at Magellic Productions in Hollywood, and he was doing a Disney project, and they needed somebody with Goofy and Mickey to do the aerobic instructor. Hey, Mickey, are we gonna do whatever? And he's like, hey, you want to do this? I was like, okay. But then at the same time, there was another show called Mommy and Me, and Tim Conway was on it, and they had these puppets called the Goldfish Sisters, and they needed somebody to speak in rhymes in syncopatedly almost musical kind of thing. And I remember doing the Goldfish Sisters like early on.
Mm-hmm.
And there was little stuff before that. Like I did a ton of sounded like parodies for Premier Radio. They were based here in the building in Sherman Oaks for many, many years. And so for more than a decade, I worked with Rob Eisenberg and the crew over there, Tim Pilcher. Those guys so great, Larry Morgan, and did a ton of parody stuff. And I just seemed to have a knack for that. They were so fun and funny. That's where all those parodies on my stream come from. Those guys wrote those for morning radio. Mm-hmm. And I think during that time too, there was a couple of little radio commercials I might have gotten plugged into because I was there or whatever. But that is a little gray as far as when, all those things percolated together.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about your first animation job or video game job?
In all honesty, I don't know which one came first.
Okay.
It started more with these little bits of character work and some commercial stuff. And then I got an agent, and I was with the same agent for like 15 years, Michaela Hicks. She's now at Vox. And I don't know what the first one was. I know that sounds so awful, but I mean, even sometimes you're adjusting your resume and you just forget. And so much of some of the bigger jobs you can't really talk about until you're done with it. And things like Captain Underpants, it was 2 years of working before that actually was able to be talked about. And so it can just start to blow by, right? Oh yeah, that. I was like, I recently did Elder Scrolls. I can talk about that now, but the game that both the online one I've done and the one that is, I think, on PlayStation. But I played like 14 characters for that. But yeah,
mm-hmm.
Zips right by. It was probably some like Beat Boat toy or, yeah, I don't know.
Well, do you still think that the single darkest headspace you've had to go for a character is still Sylvanas?
Actually, the single darkest headspace I had to go for a character was probably in an audition for something for Diablo, which I didn't end up getting. I would say that would be, but there's so many auditions that come by, right? There are moments in Sylvanas's existence that would tap into some pretty dark, areas where you really have to get into that pain and anger and revenge and
Mm-hmm. What about the case where you've had to alter your voice the most significantly for anything?
Again, I've done such a really wide range of different stuff, from little boys to grannies. So I would probably say it's on the ends of the spectrum, whether it's a creature, when you're really going into that creature mode, or hey mom, what's going on? Hey, cool. Zorbit's Math Adventure, or Beatbo's Little Songs, or I've got some stuff coming out here soon I can't really talk about, but so I can't do that. But
if you're playing an older woman, or something that just takes you over here,
That's a a stretch from your normal voice. So I would say that those gamuts probably, some of the female voices are a stretch, but they tend to tap more because you're a female. Even if you're just playing some tiny thing, or you're going to be like a teenager, or you're going to mom, it's a range of your own natural skill, even if you're dropping down to, what are we? These fall into a place that is in your range versus the hey mom and oh my lord. So I would say it's,
Yeah.
it would be the ends of the spectrum.
Well, touching on that, one thing I've found talking to voice actresses that also do a multitude of voices, that some people have a particular process for it. Is there anything that like you do specifically to get into a headspace of a boy?
I just love the innocence. Gemini, forever the child, and I love the just the wide-eyed innocence of children, their honesty, their fascination with the simplest of things, and they'll just say this stuff like, "What's that smell?" Or "Oh, cool." That wonder, I think, is a part of the. I just really try to plug in the wonder. So for me, it would be that, and then we each have a window, right? That we sort of find that those voices, and everybody's got limitations in that scale range. So you just, plug into the emotion of what's being called upon, right? Is this person sad? Are they happy? But even when a child is sad, there's this element of wonder, right? I don't know. I probably couldn't do it. It's still an approach that has that innocence thing happening.
Yeah.
I don't know. Whoa, it's a new discovery. Yeah. So I don't know. Hopefully that answers that question.
So then I didn't want to talk about, because I hadn't seen you talk about it much yet. My favorite role of yours probably is Baiken in Guilty Gear.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's fairly recent. Yeah. Really fun to be part of that.
Yeah.
Kind of a fun surprise. And it's interesting is you never know what you do
Mm-hmm.
is going to resonate. So you could have some bigger jobs and they don't resonate with folks that like things. Games seem to be a universe where people really, you have a lot of passionate fans, and it's because we get involved. Hello, this is my dragon in Warcraft with me riding it.
Yeah.
And one of the, I never played a game, not to shift gears on you, but I kind of am, until 2018 when some friends that I met through the Warcraft universe, I connected with a fan and she became a friend, and they offered to take me on a ride through this game. And I could never play games because I have some motion weird. And I was so blown away. I had never been a gamer. 2018, right? So, it's just, I was fascinated. And I started playing a little because I wanted to inform my performance. Like, what are the fans seeing? What is their view of this, right?
Yeah.
And I just became a fan of the game. It is the only game I've ever played, time permitting. That doesn't mean I wouldn't play something else. I know there's a lot of great stuff out there. Guilty Gear, Final Fantasy, a host, Call of Duty, Overwatch. There's just a host of great stuff. We could go on and on. But, it's an investment of time, as you know, in your character, their gear, and everything that you're doing there within the game universe. So, that's a digression, of course, into my love for this particular thing. But I don't think it really answers the question about Baiken. But listen, anytime you get a gig where you get to stretch a little and be part of something really cool is a blessing, right? Yeah.
Well, what are your thoughts on Baiken's character, and what aspects could you also personally relate to her the most with?
There was a aim in that state of mind, sort of her thinking like nobody can mess with me, right? In a different way than Sylvanas, in a understated way of almost like Clint Eastwood like, right? If there was a lead in it would be, yeah, make my day. And so I think Baiken, so far, that has been the director's sort of lead into her state of mind. And as far as her being sort of a badass that can, come through and not going to take any shit sort of moments, yeah, I can relate. like yeah. Mm-hmm.
What or like whose idea was it to have her have a Southern accent?
I don't exactly remember who's sort of the plug-in on that, leaning in that direction. I never really thought of it as her having a Southern accent necessarily. So that's interesting. That's an interesting perception that you have, that you feel that comes across as Southern. I wasn't trying for that, but okay.
Okay.
And I don't recall.
Okay.
That being sort of a direction.
Yeah. Was there any difficulty doing all the or getting correct all the Japanese attack names that she says out?
No, I'm very fortunate that for the most part I tend to get things like that. But yes, there's always, you've got the directors that work on the game who are incredible, who have their, usually there's more than one person there. And yes, they're helping you with pronunciations, some of which aren't what you would commonly choose.
Right.
I think I tend to land and have good instincts in that regard with other languages and stuff. But yeah, you're always looking to them to refine that and make sure, you're doing it as it should be. But as far as having trouble doing it, I would say no. I'd say I'm fascinated. I find it fabulous. It always feels like, that you're lucky to have those opportunities to work with these incredible people who create these universes.
Yep.
The directors, the writers, the graphic artists, the folks that make that game, bring it to life. You're part of a team that is, so much bigger than you, right? So it's just, delightful to get to work with them. And it's always fun to do the sessions because a lot of times they're in your ear, right? You're doing them on, Zoom and Session Link Pro or Source Connect or whatever, vehicle you're connecting, and you'll get to see everybody, but they're across the world in many cases. And you're like, I can't believe we're connecting doing this. And you're in, China or Japan or Australia or New Zealand or, we're the one in the UK of the many places people can be. Scotland, big mouth, right? It's just crazy.
It is kind of surprising to me that you haven't done a whole lot of other anime or like anime type games yet besides Guilty Gear.
Probably not a ton. Things that are coming up, I don't know. I don't want to say whether they're in that universe or not because I care. But yeah, no, as far as like, there are folks that do anime and they've got a ton of anime stuff, right? So yes, that could be an area that I could have some growth for sure.
And I don't know if you can remember, but do you have a single favorite line as Baiken, or one that you always said to get into her headspace right away in sessions or something like that?
I didn't, and it doesn't sort of like pop right in. It's one of those things I almost have to go research my own character, even for Sylvanas sometimes. I mean, still, that's 15 years of playing her. And when you do a lot of work, you can dial into something very focused while you're doing it, and then you're moving on to the next thing. And so sometimes you're like, I got to think about that. And what was that? But usually they help you, you might listen to a little clip of where you were, where are we on this character? Listen to that little clip. And once you've done it, once you hear that, it almost jumps you in. right into where that character sits.
Yeah.
So right away you just start to be like, yeah, what? You start to land in her zone. So I look to them. Those guys keep me honest,
Mhm. Well, one interesting thing about Baiken in this game, especially with how long that she's already been established in the Guilty Gear universe, that there were more implied hints with her interactions with other characters in this game that she's actually immortal, and that was never revealed before.
Well, that's good for me.
Yeah, right.
Hey, anytime they're living in the mall or they're immortal, you're like, woohoo, because you want to work and you love doing this stuff.
Yeah.
Love doing this stuff. I mean, I love my gigs. I can't think of even looping. And I've done quite a bit of looping. Even that, where it's not as high profile because you're looping something into English from Spanish or whatever language. It's still cool, right? It's cool to watch that unfold and sort of step into the actor's moments and try to grab those. So I just, every job that comes, I'm like, yee pick me. Hello. But our business is crazy. Our business is crazy. You can have a bunch of great stuff happening, right? And then be like, you can be at BlizzCon one day having a John Lennon moment, and you can be high pick me in the, fading into the woodwork, right? Fading into Dragonland, the next. I always say to people, it's a dichotomous feel. Some people say it's a bipolar industry because you can feel extreme highs and extreme lows, right? I'm not sure that's the right, use of that, but yeah, very extreme.
This might be obvious too, but do you think that when it comes to character work, do you think that you have a preference for working on more darker, dramatic projects?
Gosh, I don't know. It's so fun to be childlike. It's so fun to play a crazy witch.
Don't put it in the.
It's so fun to be like, wow, that's so cool. But I would say it's more challenging to not be so animated, to land in just the real moments. I think it demands more of you than the extremes do. But those challenges are all so much fun. And one without the other wouldn't be fun. I mean, it's all really dark or all really light. Those ebbs and, those hills and valleys just make new challenges come to your plate.
Yeah.
And I really like the challenges. I like to try to see, how, diving into that. I want to deliver for the folks that are watching and or listening or participating. And so it's, I don't know if I have a favorite. I really like them both. And that middle ground of realistic, not one or the other, can sometimes be the most challenging.
So is there anything else that's upcoming you're part of you can safely talk about?
I wish I could.
Okay.
I have something really fun. I mean, really fun coming. I cannot wait. But yeah, I can't tell you.
Okay.
And it's not just one thing. There's like 3 or 4 of them.
Oh,
yeah.
Good.
But if the game hasn't been officially released or the show or the thing, you really, and listen, there's so many great projects out there that, my fellow voice actors are parts of, that we all would love to join them. But you've got some great people. You've got great people going after these incredible jobs. And we're trying to keep it diverse and make sure folks are included. And yeah, so it's always a challenge. You just keep on going and auditioning and putting yourself out there for as many different things as you can, while you wait for the ones that you did do to hit. And then you're like, oh yeah, what was that?
Yeah.
like 8 months ago. You're like, oh shit.
Well, my final question is always asking, what do you want your legacy to be?
What do I want my legacy to be? Well, it's be a multi-pronged thing, I suppose. You want to be someone that made a positive impact on the lives of others, who, you know, was honest, and even when it maybe wasn't all that easy to hear, but overarchingly, uh, just brought some measure of light or joy or passion or inspiration to folks that you are lucky enough to have hear a single thing you say. Because there's just so much talent and so many incredible people that it takes to bring together so many of these projects, that you are in the reality of the sense, a tiny cog in a wheel of musicians and artists and fellow actors and directors and great writing minds and people that bring something to a plate for you to even, chew. And it's just the ultimate blessing to get to have a life where you get to be any small part of any of that. So I am immeasurably grateful, and I would, hope that that there is a positive impact there going forward. And also thanks to everyone who might watch this, who might follow a game, yourself included, who supports any of the work I've done over the years, and supports the industry in general of artists and gifted people who get involved in these kinds of things on so many fronts. Thanks. I mean, thank you so much for following and listening and participating and, checking out what I do and the industry I work in and having any interest at all. Sometimes it's fascinating. You think, oh, really? Me? I'll be so yeah.
Yeah.
Very grateful. Yeah.
What do you think that you learned the most from your upbringing in Minnesota here that you brought with you into your career?
Fellow Minnesota, what's up, Minneapolis?
Yeah.
Listen, I had a mother that was the endless river of love, even through times in my teenage years and difficult roads you traverse as you grow up, and difficult decisions you make that you're trying to grow up and get through and fix. So because I had a really solid, loving mom and a great sister, and my mom's the oldest of 10, so really great extended family, and then also on my father's side, my grandmother, my father's brothers, the people that we all stayed in touch with, Dennis and Michael, and both, Michael's a gifted musician. He plays up in Duluth, Minnesota.
Oh.
Really good guitarist. Yeah, he's awesome. Michael Mattson. But I would say what all those people who are grounded, who are super positive and supportive, and just sort of the salt of the earth, bring to your ability to stick with something.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to think of Minnesotans, or at least in my estimation, what I was given was probably a bootstrap mentality.
Right.
It's a bootstrap mentality. It's freezing. We're going to have to go do this. Okay. So it doesn't, you just you might be broke your ankle and you're like, okay, well, listen, let's get the ankle boot and I have to get to the car. So there's this thing like, it's a bootstrap mentality, and lots of love, lots of grounded folks, lots of good friends, lots of people that stuck by me when I didn't make the best choices and supported me to become a better person.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, we're all sort of we all have our life's trauma, right? Everybody has some story, some trauma, something. And I think that we all are, like working to be our best self, our entire life, right? We're all climbing to be the best us. And it's an ongoing lesson that doesn't end. It's like, so being able to have that bootstrap mentality makes you bounce back. It's like if I had a t-shirt I was going to make, it would say next. No, it really has to say next.
Yeah.
And not that you forget, because reflection and regret can actually be super helpful as long as you don't stay there.
Mhm.
You look back and say, wow, I wish I would have done that differently. What do I learn from that? And how do I make my best self from here? Because I'm going to trip and fall, and I'm going to say the wrong thing, and I'm going to get mad again. And maybe it's, not going to be the best outcome. But I'm going to work really hard to find productive ways to keep the train rolling and keep growing. And that bootstrap mentality, man. You can be sad for a while, right? Be kind to yourself and give yourself what you need, but get up. Next, next. What's next?
Mhm. Well, thank you. I'm glad that we got to do
So
this.
that's what I'd say.
Okay. Yeah.
Hey, really great to be here. Thank you so much for having me. Also, I'm on cameo.com, streamly.com/Patty Mattson. There's some great prints there and stuff. Folks can get signed if they're into the Warcraft gambit, but they would probably do some other stuff too if they were not having that. Good to see you. Appreciate being here.
Yeah.
And I look forward to next time, or when I'm in there doing Baiken, I'll be thinking of you.
Okay.
Like,
Sure.
hey, Chris.
Yeah. Well, have a good rest of your day then.
All right. Hey, thanks so much for having me, Chris. I look forward to checking this out when you're done.
Yep. Yep. Okay. Bye.
Awesome. Take care, honey.